Speaking of John, we have another one via telephone, former delegate and now a commissioner, John Hardy. John, good morning, sir.
Hey, good morning, Rob. Scorched earth. That ties right into what we're going to talk about here this morning.
Hey, John, how was that commute?
It's great.
Going
I love
to
it.
Lawrenceburg.
I sleep in my own bed every night, and it's really nice. I'm enjoying it. I am following the legislature pretty closely. It's kind of hard to get away from that, but I'm enjoying my new job and my new role, and I feel like that can really work here with a good group of people to try to make a positive change for Berkeley County. And that's what we're talking about here today. Berkeley County Commission is working with our professional firefighters, our emergency services, our volunteer fire departments, and the city of Martinsburg. And we're starting an operation here that we are trying to get materials to southern West Virginia. So my announcement here this morning is that we are going to have available for the community drop-off points at all of our volunteer fire departments. That would be Beddington, Hedgesville, Baker Heights, South Berkeley, Back Creek Valley, and the Sheriff's Office. These will be drop-off spots for materials that is needed to help our brothers and sisters in southern West Virginia with flooding.
Can you repeat those locations more slowly this time, John?
Yes. So those locations for drop-off will be from 6 in the morning till 6 in the evening, and that's Beddington Volunteer Fire Department, that's Hedgesville Volunteer Fire Department, Baker Heights Volunteer Fire Department, South Berkeley's Volunteer Fire Department, Back Creek Valley Volunteer Fire Department, and the Sheriff's Office. All of those locations will be taking items that I'm getting ready to give you a list of here, Monday through Friday, 6 through 6. People can drop off materials that is going to go to help Logan County, Mingo County, Wyoming County, Mercer County, and McDowell. Wyoming County is really the one that has been hit the hardest. So I think that's probably going to be the first place that our first load of supplies go to. And then we will be coordinating. Our local emergency services center here in Berkeley County is coordinating with the state's emergency services centers. And then they are kind of giving us direction of what's needed and where it needs to go.
And what kind of items should be dropped off, John?
Yeah, so here's what we're looking for. This is the list that we received from the West Virginia State Emergency Operations Center. They are looking for cleaning supplies, buckets, mops, brooms, bleach, shovels, personal hygiene items, new pillows, new blankets, work gloves, and trash bags.
Very good.
Used clothes should not be donated.
We do not need, we're not really asking for any clothing or anything like that. We're asking for everything to be newly purchased in the packet. You know, if we're going to get pillows and blankets, we want to serve these people with new stuff. Obviously that with that being said, you know, we want to try to make sure that we're getting the materials that these people are in desperate need of. Some of these counties have just been, decimated by the floods, and then the cold weather came in. And so there's some people that in southern West Virginia that are really struggling right now. And Berkeley County, and all the operations that I spoke about, our professional firefighters and our volunteer fire departments and emergency services in the city of Martinsburg and the Sheriff's Department want to be able to try to work and help our friends in the South.
I'm hearing that this is worse than the 2001 floods in that area.
It's really bad. And a lot of those counties, that they lost their water in their sewer systems, so they're trying to get their water systems back up. I know that Raleigh County had a really bad water main break. I don't know if it was due to the flooding, but they had a large water main break. So it just, those southern counties down there, really Logan, Mingo, and Wyoming, and even Mercer County, and you don't hear as much about Mercer County having these issues. It typically is Mingo and Wyoming and McDowell, but it's pretty widespread, and they're in pretty bad shape. So, anything that people can do to help with those items and dropping them off at the Sheriff's Department or those volunteer fire departments that are spread all out through the county would be most appreciated and grateful. We also are going to have a social media blast campaign that's probably going to be hitting here within the next hour. You're going to see stuff all over Facebook and Instagram. We're going to do a press release, and so we're hoping that you guys at WRNR and the station across the across town will continue to report on this, and as soon as we get trailers full, we're going to be heading south. So
I grew up, John, in Peterstown, which is in Monroe County, and it doesn't flood as bad as the other places because it's not in the coal fields. It's in a nice river valley, and it flooded. And it was bad, bad flooding.
You know, and for people that have never been to like Mingo County, you know, when you go to Welch, you know, you're driving down. You're driving down. You know, Welch sits pretty low. It's you know, pretty low in the county, and it kind of sits in a bowl. And
it's steep.
And Logan,
the water only has one place to go, which is down, and it's narrow at the bottom.
Yes, sir. Yeah.
And so it creates
Wyoming County is a very rough county. It's a very, and when I say rough, I mean it's very the terrain is very rough, and a lot of steep cliffs, and a lot of you know, there's a lot of dirt roads and a lot of gravel roads, and so the county is just a lot of steep terrain and back country and just, you know, tough wooded areas.
I was down there in 2001 when I lived down there in the coal fields. I was across the line in Buchanan County, but in Grundy, but it was bad. It was real bad.
It sure is.
John, I noticed you didn't mention food or bottled water or anything like that, or if you did, I missed it. Is that not something we're collecting right now?
That is not what they're asking for right now. I think that they are working with other operations and getting food and water and stuff in. This is what we were asked to bring, and I'll make sure that you guys have a list, a good list of everything that we're asking for, and I can run through that one more time to anyone that's listening that wants to, you know, kind of jot that down. And but this is what they're asking for at the time. They're not asking for any water. They're not asking for any food. I think the West Virginia State Operations has been supplying a lot of water, and I think there's been a lot of food being brought in from other areas. This is what the immediate need that they were looking for right now.
You want to run down that list again? Go right ahead, John.
I will, yep, and we're calling this Operation Berkeley County Cares. We want all of our brothers and sisters in southern West Virginia. I've spoken to most of the delegates from down that way, and even a few county commissioners that are friends of mine that were in the legislature or had something to do with the legislature in the past. And so, you know, the need is great, and I'm going to run back down through the list one more time. And those were cleaning supplies, really any and all cleaning supplies, buckets, mops, brooms, bleach, shovels, personal hygiene items, and take that for what it is. I mean, that could be toothbrush, toothpaste. I mean, you know, anything you can think of. New pillows, new blankets, work gloves, and trash bags. And once again, all of those materials can be dropped off from 6 in the morning till 6 in the evening at Bennington Volunteer Fire Department, Hedgesville Volunteer Fire Department, Baker Heights Volunteer Fire Department, South Berkeley Volunteer Fire Department, Back Creek Volunteer Fire Department, and the Sheriff's Office on Raleigh Street.
Very good. Thank you, John.
And when it comes to shovels, I don't know where I heard this, but when it comes to shovels, I understand the big need is for the flathead kind of shovel because you can scrape the mud off of floors and such.
Yeah,
that makes sense.
And that's the thing they're fighting right now. I talked to one of the EOC guys down in Mingo County, and it's just the mud. That's what they're looking for, the buckets and the shovels. I mean, you know, it's just mud, tons and tons and tons of mud that are inside of people's homes and inside of businesses, and so that's what they're wanting the shovels and the buckets for, and obviously the bleach, brooms, and mops to clean up once the mud's out, and so those are the key things that they're looking for right now.
Our producer, Colin, has a photo up right now, excuse me, from Welch, and that's the Welch, West Virginia underpass that he put up in there. You got a second photo, too. That was from the Jefferson County Sheriff's Office's website. They posted a few photos themselves. It's another one that he just rotated through there, and a couple more that he'll be bringing by as well as you're watching.
Kudos to them for sending supplies down already.
Yeah, great. Jefferson County. I know they sent some deputy sheriffs down and sent some stuff down too. So, you know, it's a combined effort, and it's important that the areas of the state that have not been affected can help our friends that have been affected, because you never know when we may need them to return the favor for us here. If, you know, we have something tragic happen here in Eastern Panhandle. So it's really good that the state can work together, and the counties that have not been affected can help those that have been affected. I'm hopeful to maybe have another announcement first part of next week. We are working with Walmart and Target to be able to actually just set a trailer at Walmart and Target And if people want to donate, they could be right there at Walmart and Target. They could purchase what they need. We'll have a list on the side of the trailer. They could purchase things and bring them out and put them right in the trailer, and that would save us a little bit of jockeying things around. But we need to get permission from Walmart and Target's corporate offices, and that's just going to take us a few days to get that. So hopefully maybe first part of next week I can report back to you guys that we'll be setting some trailers at those two places, Target at the Commons and Walmart in Spring Mills, and we may be able to get materials directly from there. And if people want to drop stuff off there or they want to buy stuff directly at Walmart and load it right in the trailer, because it's like I said, as soon as we get trailers loaded, we're headed to southern West Virginia. So
fortunately, the death toll on this flood isn't as high as 2016, but clearly the area impacted is a lot bigger than it was in the 2016 floods.
Yeah, I know that there was a family that was tragically, I think the grandmother and the grandfather and one child was swept away, and that there was two children that were rescued. And I'm not sure about any other deaths that have happened due to the flood, but, all those deaths are very tragic, but luckily the number wasn't as high. But I do agree with you. I think the affected area is much larger than it was in the past.
My niece, a few years back, the house that she and her husband were renting before they bought the house where they are now, they were down by railroad tracks by a creek, and there was a flash flood, and when it hit, John, it was striking how quickly it comes and how little time you have to get out before it's too late. And in her particular case, I think she was about 4 or 5 steps up from the ground where her living room sat, and as the waters came up quickly, she was taking video to the point where she was within about a minute of being marooned. That's how fast those waters come. And John Gilstrap can probably talk to this better than I can about the challenges to get vehicles, to get any kind of relief in for people like that as those waters are rising quickly as you're running out of time to get out.
Well, yeah, and the dealing with floodwaters, people don't get it. People try to drive through, rising waters. I've seen people try to walk through rising waters. It only takes a couple of inches. If you get it all buoyant while you're walking, if you got air in your shoes, if all you have to do is get a 1/4 inch buoyant, and you're gone. And now you're among that water is not just flowing water. It's got rocks and debris, and it'll chew you up. And getting emergency equipment in there, it's a real gamble, because if you wreck your fire truck, you can't help anybody. So what happens is it often leads to criticism, but what often happens is the emergency apparatus has to hang outside of where the real damage is, and then try to put in boats or something else. But you can't get a fire truck in the middle of a flood, and if you don't get it out, you just lost a fire truck, and you can't help anybody.
You got down lines. And
yeah, I mean, it's just problems. Oh, that's the other part is the power lines. I have never, knock on wood here, I've never endured that kind of a flood. I've seen creeks overflowing, that kind of stuff. I can't wrap my head around that. The devastation.
Gilstrap, thank you, John. John Hardy. Before you have to go, take us through how this process works from state government when the governor starts to declare a state of emergency, or the various flavors of that language, depending on the situation. How fast does the state react after the governor has asked for a declaration?
It does. What it does is it really starts to speed up the process, and what it does, it starts opening up funds. So what happens is, when you have a local event like that, it's, the local responsibility, the local response from, local fire, whether that be volunteer paid, if a municipality or emergency services in that area is responding. And then what happens when the governor comes in and has a declaration of a disaster or emergency, what that does is that starts opening up more opportunities for state agencies to get involved. It opens up coffers of money that are set aside for these type of emergencies. It also gets the federal government moving and involved. So what happens is the resources grow exponentially. So and the main thing you start getting is not only do you get the financial help from the state. You get the emergency services, you get the communications. You know, in these situations, communication is key, making sure that resources are landing where they're needed. And, you know, it's great to have all the resources, but if you don't have a distribution of those resources, they really don't do anybody any good. So you start getting not only local people, but state people on the ground, helping getting these distribution centers set up, warming centers, for lack of a better term, like a refugee center, places for people to sleep. I mean, people have lost their homes. They don't have any place warm to sleep. I know that they've used some hospitals. They've used, you know, any buildings down there that have any size to them for people to be able to sleep, and people to have warming centers for meals to be served. So you really start opening up the opportunities for a lot more people on a revenue stream to get involved, and really key is that communication. The very first thing we did when we started talking about this, or, you know, getting this project off the ground and wanting to be involved, it took us almost 3 days to get this organized. And, you know, you're trying to move you have to move at the speed of government. You're trying to go as fast as you can. But, you know, we're trying to get organized because we want to make sure that we are collecting the right materials. We have a place to have this material collected, and then once we collect it, you know, we're working on the state level to make sure that we have the right distribution points to get this out. So our emergency operations director, Randy Lilly, has been working with the State Operations Center. Our chief of our professional firefighters, Marty Roberts, has been working with all the volunteer firehouses to get all the permissions and people in place to make sure that we have those drop-off spots available. It's just been the whole county has come together and worked in communicating and trying to make this project happen as fast as it possibly can. And I'm very proud to be a part of it. I'm very proud of the organization that we put together, that we're working through here to get this done, and really the direction that we're having from the state, that once we start collecting this materials and we have those trailers heading south, that we know where the distribution points are and make sure that these resources get to the people who need them.
John, I know you have to get going to the Berkeley County Commission meeting. I thank you very much for your time this morning, sir.
No, thank you guys very much for giving me the opportunity to discuss this. And like I said, I'll be on as much as I can with updates. If we start to get too much of one product and maybe need some more of another, or if there's products added, if there's drop-off points added as this thing continues to grow and move forward, I'll be giving you guys those updates.
Much appreciated. Whenever you need the time, let me know.
Thank you, Rob. I appreciate all you guys.
See you, John.
Take care.
See you, John.
Bye.
John Hardy, Berkeley County Commissioner, former member of the House of Delegates, and he was the Vice Chair of Finance the last year that he served in the House of Delegates, too. John, back to your EMT experience here. You mentioned you never had to respond to a major flood?
Not like this, no.
Yeah.
No, just.
Did you have to deal with rising floodwaters at some point?
Oh, certainly. We did water rescues and such, but not. They were usually people who got caught up. The water rescues we did were like at Great Falls, where, you know, people just being where they shouldn't. Mm-hmm. And we plucked some people out of cars in flash floods. You know, in the big thunderstorms. There are parts in Fairfax and in Prince William counties where floodwaters rise really quickly and then they recede really quickly, and people who are in a hurry get in the middle of it and they get stranded.
What's the primary parts of attacking to get to a person who's in a situation where they're stranded by a flash flood? Well, or in a car with rising water, right?
Well, ideally, from the point of view of the people in the car, stay put. And worst case, get up on the roof and you know, call for help. From the rescuer's point of view, it can be tough. There are water rescue protocols. What you don't do is just go swimming out into the water and rescue people. You know, you've got to get secured to make sure you don't sacrifice firefighters for, you know, you don't want them to drown too.
Especially with the heavy gear that they wear.
Yeah. And it's complicated. It's a specialty. Water rescue, fast water rescue is a specialty. That was not one of mine. But does
everybody get some exposure and training for that at some point along the way, or do you?
Well, actually, everybody gets some exposure for how you tie off, so that if you need to go and rescue somebody, you can. But if somebody's really caught in fast water, then you get on the radio and you call for the fast water rescue team.
And your advice to them is to stay in the vehicle or try to get on the roof of it.
Yes. Don't get into the water, because you also don't know if the power lines are down. That's the other thing. You need to. When you get to a scene like that, there's so many things that could be wrong, and of course it's always going to be at night, and it's always going to be in the worst possible circumstances, and you can't just go rushing into an emergency and hope for the best. You have to assess an emergency. That doesn't take all that long, but it takes a couple of minutes, and it's very annoying, quite honestly, to be in that position of having to rescue somebody that shouldn't have had to be rescued because they did something that was really stupid.
Yeah, we just kind of covered that earlier this morning, by the way. So how do you tell the difference? I was thinking about this the other day as I was driving home through Jefferson County. How do I tell the difference between power lines and phone lines when there's a line down?
They are all power lines.
Even a telephone line is a
No, you assume that they're all.
Just assume it's a power line.
Yeah, I mean,
I didn't know if there's like thickness was a way to tell, or just
power lines for the most part are bare
line.
wire, as opposed to insulated wire. I don't think that's always the case, but that's normally the case. Certainly on when you're going down the road. If it's sparking,
that's
usually when they're down and it's wet, it'll be sparking. And depending on how much electricity is in that wire, remember there's it's called the inverse square law. It's the closer as you have the distance to an energy source, you quadruple the perceived energy. So the closer you get to one of these down power lines, the closer you get to the full energy of the power line.
If I have a live down power line during a flood and it's in the water, does that electricity carry through the water?
Yes, we call that a bad day.
Yeah, and how far might that be in terms of safety?
You don't know. Where are the gremlins? There's no way to calculate that. If you are in the presence of a down power line, if you're in a car, thunderstorm puts a power line on your car. If you are around to say, oh golly, there's a power line on my car, you're good. Stay there. Do not get out. Stay in the car. Because once you step out, if there's a difference in electrical potential between your hand in the car and your foot on the ground, that's when you're going to get electrocuted. So
that would be a frightening situation.
It's a horrifying situation.
Yeah.
And in that case, for the fire department, what we would do is wait for the power company. You tell the people to stay put, stay put, stay put. Because if they're yelling, then they're okay. And then you get them to stay there long enough for the power company to kill the power to the pole, and then it's just a regular rescue.
I remember several years back, coming back from the beach, probably, 10, 12 years ago, there was a truck that hit a car. The car went over the Bay Bridge into the bay, and it was nighttime. I thought to myself, isn't that like your worst nightmare, coming across the Bay Bridge?
Well, the Bay Bridge is one of my worst nightmares.
I hated the Bay Bridge. I'm
Think about falling into that water in your car. The old days with the hand crank windows, you might have a shot, but with everything's an electric window now, how do you get out of that situation?
Well, it happened in Morgantown. That vehicle went.
They found the vehicle, yeah.